In today's video, I'll be showing you how to use an oven. Regardless of whether you have electric or gas or what brand you have, if you have an electrical panel like this, all the features on them will be pretty similar. I'll be going over what every single button does, and if you already know everything there is to know about ovens, don't worry, because I will also be covering special hidden features at the end of the video. Let's start with the most used button, bake. Once you press bake, 350 appears. That means it's going to go up to 350 degrees Fahrenheit if you press start. You could also adjust the temperatures using the plus and minus arrows. On some ovens it'll be an up and down arrow. And usually it goes up by increments of 5. You can either press it one at a time or just press and hold to adjust the temperatures to whatever you need. Let's say that I need 420. Once I selected 420, I just have to press start and my oven starts to preheat. Once the oven will heat up to 420 degrees, it will beep to let me know that it's heated up to 420, and I can then put in whatever dish I'm trying to cook. To cancel the bake and turn the oven off, you just have to press the cancel or off button, and that shuts everything off. The next cooking mode is broil, and that's a little bit different than bake, because bake, it turns on the bottom element or the bottom burner, whereas broil only turns on the top burner or the top element. Also, when you go to broil, it doesn't allow you to select a temperature. It's either high or low. So if I click that, I only have the two options, either the high or the low. The high is about 550 degrees and the low is about 450 degrees. Then you just press start and that starts the broiler. Once again, you press cancel or off to turn everything off. Broil would be used to sear a piece of meat or maybe to brown the top of a pie. The next feature is self-clean, and if you put your oven on self-clean, all it does is bring up the temperature in the oven to very high temperatures, anywhere from 500 to 900 degrees Fahrenheit, and that is supposed to essentially roast or burn away any spills, residue, or stains that you have in the oven. In order to put the oven into self-clean, you would press self-clean, and then it gives you an option anywhere from 3 to 5 hours, 4 being the medium, and 5 being the most you could set it to. If your oven is really dirty, you would set it to 5. If it's not as dirty, then you would set it to 3 hours. Then you would lock the oven using the oven control in the front, or your oven may have an automatic lock that locks automatically when you put it into self-clean. You would lock the oven and then just go ahead and press start. Now that I explained how it works, let me give you a word of advice. Don't use the self-clean feature. I've repaired many ovens, and quite a few times when I would get out there, the homeowner would say that my oven started having issues after I used the self-clean. When the oven goes into the self-clean mode, the super high temperatures that the oven goes up to when it's in the self-clean mode are very hard on the oven parts. And I've seen quite a few times where the control board would literally start to melt as the oven is in that self-cleaning mode. I've seen temperature sensors go bad, heating elements burn out, and big brown stains left after the cleaning cycle. If you have a bad experience with self-clean, we would love to hear your story in the comments below. Next up is the lock controls feature. And I've been to quite a few calls where the homeowner would accidentally lock his oven, and then they would not know what's going on because none of the buttons would work. So in order to lock the controls, you would press and hold for 3 seconds the plus and minus buttons. The oven then blinks lock on, and none of the buttons work until you disable that lock. So if I press bake, nothing, it just starts blinking again. Broil doesn't work, start doesn't work. Basically nothing works. Those are the easiest calls I go to, because then I simply just unlock the oven and the customer is back in business. If the light bulb inside of your oven is not burnt out, then you can turn it on and off using the oven light button right here. The next button is a simple timer. So if, for example, you're boiling some eggs and you need them to boil for 8 minutes, you can put them on the cooktop and then just press the timer button, set it to 8 minutes, and press start. When the 8 minutes are up, the oven will beep at you to remind you that you have eggs on your oven. With the timer, pressing cancel does not shut it off. In order to shut off the timer, you just have to press the timer button twice. And that shuts it off. Next up, we have cook time, and that simply allows you to set a predetermined amount of time for how long you want the oven to be running. So let's say that I need the oven to cook for 2 hours at 400 degrees. I would press cook time, set it to 2 hours, And then I would press bake, set my 400 degrees, and press start. Like usual, to cancel that, you just press off. And one more thing to note is that the cook time can only be used with bake, it cannot be used with broil. Next is the set clock button, and this button simply allows me to adjust the time. In order to adjust my time, I just click that button twice, and then I am free to adjust my time to whatever I want. Once you select the time that you need, you simply press set clock again to save the setting. The last button is delay time, and this allows you to make the oven turn on at a later time in the day. So for example, if I press delay time and go to 5 o'clock, this will make the oven turn on at 5 o'clock to whatever temperature I set it to. So after I pick my time, I press start, and then I go to bake. I select the temperature I want it to go up to. Let's say it's 400 degrees. And I press start. At 5 o'clock, the oven will come on and come up to 400 degrees. And finally, let's move on to the special features or the hidden menu, which can be accessed by pressing bake and broil at the same time for 3 seconds. And you have to actually press them both together at the same time, otherwise broil or bake will come on by itself. So let's press cancel, try that again. There you go. SF appears, which means special features, and from here we can access a few more things. One thing we can do is calibrate the oven by pressing the bake button. And what this allows me to do is to make the oven run hotter or colder. So if you feel like your oven is getting too hot, it's burning everything, or if it's not getting hot enough, you always have to increase the temperature more than you think you should. You can increase the temperature right here, either plus 35 degrees or minus 35 degrees. Mine is already at -5. That's because I already calibrated my oven, and I actually have a whole video of how I did that. If you're interested to learn more about the calibration, you can go ahead and check that video out. After you select the desired adjustment that you want, so in my case it was the -5, you just press start, and your calibration is complete. Let's get back into the special features menu again. There's one more feature that almost all electronic ovens will have, and that is Sabbath mode. And a lot of customers actually accidentally somehow turn that on, and then they have no clue why their oven is working all weird. So in order to turn on Sabbath mode, I would press set clock in the special features menu twice, and that brings up Sabbath. If I press start, this little backwards C will appear, and that means that the oven is in Sabbath mode. When the oven is in Sabbath mode, this disables the oven lights, all the sounds, it will not beep anymore, the broil, the cook time, the timer, the clock, and the delay time functions. When Sabbath mode is active, pretty much the only thing you can use is bake. To exit out of Sabbath mode, you would just go into the special features menu again, and simply, instead of Sabbath, select on and press start. And I was going to share a few more features with you, but unfortunately on my oven model, these features are actually not available. I tried getting into these menus, but it would not go through. But I'll put the procedure on the screen just in case your model can actually access these features. By the way, all the things that I'm teaching you, you can actually look up yourself. All you need is the model number of the oven, which can usually be found behind the bottom drawer of the oven. You simply go ahead and put that model number into Google and then type in owner's manual. And you should be able to look up your owner's manual online, which will tell you a lot more than I just did in this video. Most of these manuals are complete with a cooking guide, a troubleshooting guide, they tell you which cookware to use and not to use, and a bunch of other useful information. If you want to know how to fully use your oven, I would recommend checking out your owner's manual online. And that is how you use an oven. And before I end this video, let me share an interesting story with you. When I was 11 or 12 years old, by the way, this is true, non-fiction. When I was 11 or 12 years old, I was home alone and I got hungry, so I decided to have some boiled eggs. I put the eggs on the cooktop, turned them on, and I went to the basement to play a computer game. And while I was playing this computer game, I totally forgot about the eggs. So 2 or 3 hours go by, and pretty soon my screen turns foggy. And I wipe down my screen and I'm thinking, what is going on? Why is there fog in front of my screen? And I keep playing for a little, it fogs up again, and then I look around the room, and the whole entire room is all in fog. And that's when it finally hits me, the eggs. So I sprint upstairs and I see the eggs. The pan is empty and there's already a hole on the bottom of it and the eggs are on the ceiling. So I open up all the windows and the smoke is just billowing out the windows, and that's exactly when my dad comes home. As the whole house is like in smoke from the outside, he flies into the house and he's all pissed off. What's going on? Is there a fire? And he's all rattled up. And about an hour later of cleanup, I was still not able to get the eggs off of the ceiling. Literally the only way you can get them off is if you scrape that paint off. So we just kind of left it up there as a souvenir or a memento. And just recently, a friend of mine had a similar story. He put a pot of soup on the range and he forgot about it. He left it on and he left fishing with his son. By the time he got back, when he got out of his car, it smelled like soup in the parking lot. He lives like in a condo complex. The whole parking lot was stinking like soup and the neighbors were coming out wondering what's going on. He flies into the house and of course the whole soup just boiled out and the oven is already on fire. There's a little fire coming out of the pot. And the whole house just stinks like that soup. It was terrible, and it took about a week to finally get all that smell out. They had to put a bunch of filters in, they had to repaint the whole house, they had to wash all the furniture, the chairs, everything, the carpet. It was a mess. And if you have an oven story of your own, I would love to hear about it in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. By the way, did you know that muffins spelled backwards is what you do when you take them out of the oven?